Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode. Today it's called The Transition Doesn't Fail Athletes. Unprepared athletes fail the transition. And this has been one of my more powerful quotes over the years that I came up with. But last night, millions of parents watched the national championship football game across the United States and across the world. What most people were focused on was the score, the talent, the uniforms, the moment, halftime activities. But what very few parents noticed was this. The average age of the athletes on the field was around 23 and a half years old on both teams, with only one true freshman playing a meaningful role. And you know what? That matters a lot. Because while high school athletes across the country are preparing for spring ball and showcases and college camps over the next few months, the reality of modern college sports is staring us right in the face. This episode isn't about talent. It's about transition and, more importantly, preparation for that transition. Because the transition doesn't fail athletes. Again, as I said, unprepared athletes fail the transition. And here's the first part, which is the athlete's transition. Most people think transition means high school to college, or maybe from one sport to another. But transitions stack up faster than families realize. Look, for instance, the athlete's transition goes from, playing rec ball to more competitive ball, from JV to varsity, from backup to starter, from one sport to a new sport, from being dependent upon to being independent. And at every level, expectations change. There is less explanation. There's less reassurances. Of course, there's more accountability, and there's faster consequences for the actions. Talent might get you noticed, but talent alone does not get you through transitions. Preparation does. And here's part two, which I'm calling the parent transition, which really seems to be sometimes the most ignored in a lot of places. The transition no one really wants to talk about is your transition as parents. I see this for years, weekly on sidelines and social media today. Parents go from, U8 rec soccer to structured club matches with 6-pump venti mocha stirds, Starbucks machines to AAU travel basketball to high school varsity environments in multi-million-dollar stadiums funded by taxpayers. And of course, next up, I believe private equity firms will be taking over these stadiums. That's just a longer drive or a hotel stay. That's a different world. And parents must transition from the manager to an advisory role, from the sideline coach to the silent supporter, from the problem solver to the listener. Because most parents aren't doing anything wrong. They're just unprepared for the role change. And yes, even myself as a dad and my wife, we had to make sure we supported this transition when our son and daughter went and played at the highest levels in both their academics and their athletic environments. And when parents don't transition properly, you know what? The athletes feel it. They get conflicting messages. There's increased pressure. There's confusion about authority. And this is where many cracks begin, and if not fixed, will leave permanent ones along the way. And there's also a coaching transition. And this transition is one that families really do underestimate, because athletes move from mom or dad as a coach, from volunteer coach to a community coach, to then a high school coach, and then high school followers at home enjoying Joe's Pizzeria. Of course, with free haircuts at the local barbershop, to licensed professionals, private coaches, college coaches whose careers depend on results. And those results have to be fast. They're going to be full-time away from mom and dad and dealing with college life and the speed of the game, no matter the sport. And of course, the lawyers and brand managers and compliance managers at every corner. You know what? The feedback changes, the tone changes, the patience changes. It's not personal, it's professional. So when families don't understand this transition, coaches become the villain. Athletes shut down, parents step in when they shouldn't, and that transition doesn't help anyone, especially the athlete. And this is the next one. The next sideline transition is the sideline and the staff transition. Because there's one more important transition almost no one prepares families for, and it's the sideline itself. Because see, in high school, you might have 2 to 5 coaches total. Many are teachers at the current high school. Many are volunteers. Limited specialization. There's limited time each week and each day, and there's limited resources. In college, especially in the Division I and all around that, you got 10 to 20 specialized staff members. You got position coaches. You got strength and conditioning coaches. You got a recruiting staff. You've got analysts, quality assurance analysts. You got GAs, graduate assistants. You got a nutritionalist. You've got a sports medicine group. And of course, you've got a mental performance person. And most are former players. They're career professionals. They're full-time employees. And they are evaluated on their results. This is no longer a school activity. It's a performance organization. So when parents say, why didn't the coach just fix this? They often don't realize that everyone on that sideline has a specific role. And none of them are there to raise your child. It's not harsh. It's reality. And here's what I call the transition triangle, or maybe around the Venn diagram. When you zoom out, success lives in the overlap of 3 roles: the athlete, the parent, and the coach. And when all 3 understand their role and their expectations, the next level's reality, and the transition becomes more manageable. When one side is unprepared, athletes feel overwhelmed. Parents feel lost, and coaches get blamed. The problem isn't effort, it's misalignment. And here's what happens when families are unprepared. This is really where we see the early transfer portal entries currently, which has about 34% of freshmen entering the portal. We lose lost roster spots. And you'll hear things like, well, the coach didn't really like me narratives. Or the parents are shocked 6 to 9 months later when they're told their son or daughter is no longer playing. And not because the athlete wasn't good enough, but because they weren't prepared for the system they entered. And here's where I really will call this the bridge. I'm building out a free college readiness course for the high school parent and athletes. And it's not to sell you anything. It's not to hype recruiting, but to help families understand what college sports actually demand, how transitions really work, and how parents should shift roles, and how athletes can prepare before it's too late. And if this episode hits home, that's just your next step. Transitions aren't bad. They're inevitable. But preparation is really a choice. And the families who thrive aren't the ones chasing rankings, stars, or even the hype. They're the ones who understand the transition before they step into it. Lastly, if you like this episode, this is Coach Nolan, and I hope you have an awesome day. Take care.